My parents dragged me to court over a house I bought with my own money. Yes, my parents. Yes, my house. One day I was holding the keys I'd worked 6 years to afford, and the next I was staring at legal documents with my name on them as if I'd committed a crime. When I asked for an explanation, my father didn't pause for a second. He looked straight at me and said, "That house is supposed to be your sister's." I thought that would be the breaking point. I was wrong. What came after shattered everything I believed about my family. I'm Eloise, and for most of my adult life, I believed the easiest way to keep peace was simple. Stay quiet, work hard, and never expect anything beyond what I could earn alone. My father, Malcolm, treated every decision he made like it was law. And my mother, Rosalind, followed behind him, smoothing things over with guilt and emotional pressure. My younger sister, Celeste, never had to deal with any of that. She floated through life supported by their constant approval, their excuses, and their belief that she always needed more than I did. Fairness never had a place in our home. Expectations did. Still, I focused on building my own life. I threw myself into my job, late nights, long weekends, eyes burning from screen glare, telling myself that patience and discipline would give me the freedom my childhood never offered. For 6 long years I saved every spare dollar. No vacations. No impulse buys. I brought lunch from home. Any bonus or raise went straight into the bank. Every sacrifice brought me closer to owning something that was mine. When I told my family I finally had enough for a down payment, Rosalind practically lit up, clapping her hands like she'd been waiting for that announcement. "Oh darling, we're so proud of you," she said, decorating the dinner table like it was a holiday. Malcolm nodded once, slow and approving. "If you play it smart, that'll be a solid investment." For a moment I actually felt proud, small but real, until Celeste leaned back, stirring her iced tea, and said, "Must be nice having an engineering salary. Some of us are still drowning in student loans." There was no humor in her voice. There never was when it came to my success. I tried to stay positive. "You're doing well at your firm. You'll get there too." She didn't reply. She didn't have to. Her resentment was always quiet but suffocating, especially when attention shifted to me. Still, I kept moving forward. I spent weekends touring houses, evenings driving through quiet neighborhoods, imagining a life where no one else controlled my choices. Then I found it. A modest 2-story house on a peaceful street near the city. Not glamorous. Not perfect, but it felt like something that belonged to me. Signing the closing papers was surreal, like exhaling after holding my breath for years. What I didn't know then was that this house, my hard-earned house, would become the reason every illusion I had about my family would collapse. 3 days after closing, I was sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, surrounded by half-open boxes, sweaty and exhausted, when my phone started buzzing non-stop. First I ignored it. I was busy assembling a shelf. Then Mara texted, "You need to see this. Now." She sent a screenshot. It was Celeste's public social media post, dramatic, manipulative, dripping with victimhood. "When your sister uses the money grandma left for your first home to buy a house for herself." Hundreds of likes. Strangers calling me greedy, selfish, unbelievable. My chest tightened. I reread the post, hoping I'd misunderstood. But I hadn't. She was accusing me of taking money that didn't exist. No inheritance, no fund. Nothing. Before I could process it, my phone rang again. "Dad." I answered slowly. "Hello." His voice was cold, formal. "Eloise, we need to talk about the situation with the house." My stomach dropped. "What situation?" Rosalind's voice floated faintly behind him. "Sweetheart, you already know." "No," I said. "I don't." Malcolm sighed, annoyed. "Your mother and I consulted an attorney. The money set aside for Celeste's first home was intended for her. You knew that." Heat rushed to my face. There was never any designated money. I saved every cent myself. "I can prove it." He went quiet. Then he said the sentence that split my world in half. "That house belongs to your sister." I sat heavily on the stairs. "Dad, this is absurd. There is no fund. No agreement." "You're being unreasonable," he snapped. "Celeste needs that house more than you. She's been planning for it, and you've taken it from her. She never even mentioned this house." "That's irrelevant," he said. "We'll be filing in court tomorrow." A cold shock spread through me. "You're taking me to court?" Over my own home. Rosalind jumped in, her voice soft and guilt-laced. We just want things to be fair for your sister. You can always buy another place. Another one. As if 6 years of sacrifice were something I could repeat on command. The call ended abruptly. I sat alone in the dim hallway of my new house, surrounded by boxes and betrayal, realizing my parents weren't confused. They were choosing Celeste over me. Fully. Completely. Intentionally. That evening, Mara showed up with takeout and a look that said she'd already heard everything. You're not imagining this, she said. They're really trying to take your house. Ashton appeared in the doorway, and only then did I realize he had come along too. His arms were crossed tightly over his chest. Eloise, you need to brace yourself, he said. They're serious. Your family is gearing up for a full legal battle. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed at Mara's counter with a cup of tea that had long gone cold, staring into space while the quiet hum of her apartment filled the silence. The shock hadn't worn off. It had simply settled deeper, pressing against my ribs like a weight I couldn't shake. Mara sat opposite me, leaning forward. You're staying here, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. You shouldn't be alone in that house. I didn't object. I barely had the strength. The next morning, Ashton returned carrying a folder under his arm. I called in some favors, he said, pushing it toward me. You're going to need someone who specializes in property and inheritance disputes. Vivian Hale is the best I know. I stared at him. Inheritance? There's no inheritance issue. His smile was thin. Your parents are trying to make one up. We met Vivian that afternoon. Her office was sleek and bright, all glass walls and quiet confidence. She listened without interrupting as I recounted everything. Celeste's post, the phone call, the threat of court. When I finished, she sat back. Their claim is baseless, she said. But weak cases can still cause damage if they're loud enough. We'll need documentation. Bank statements, payroll records. Anything proving this purchase was made entirely with your own earned money. I have all of it, I said. Every receipt. Every transfer. Excellent. Vivian clicked her pen. Next, we need witnesses. Who can confirm the actual terms of the inheritance? For the first time in hours, I felt a thread of stability return. My Uncle Raymond and my Aunt Miriam. Good, she said. Reach out immediately. Raymond picked up on the second ring. Eloise, sweetheart. I've heard there's trouble. As soon as I explained, he didn't even pause. Your grandmother would be livid, he said. I'll sign whatever you need. Aunt Miriam's voice was soft but heavy. I always feared Malcolm might do something like this, she murmured. He pressured your grandparents to change the will, to favor Celeste. They refused. He never let it go. She exhaled. If you need me to testify, I will. And just like that, everything clicked into place. This wasn't a sudden outburst, it was years in the making. Years of promises, entitlement, and expectations stitched together until they burst at the seams. But the worst moment came 2 nights later. Mara and I walked up to my house to grab a few of my things when I noticed someone on the porch fiddling with the doorknob. Celeste. She stood there with a key I had never given her, trying to jam it into the lock. What are you doing? I yelled. She spun around, startled. I just wanted to look inside. Then, under her breath, it's going to be my house anyway. She said it like a threat. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. Vivian called it what it was, attempted unlawful entry. Evidence. And the fear that had been smothering me hardened into something sharp and steady. They wanted war? Fine. They get it. The courthouse smelled like disinfectant and old paper. Cold and personal. As I walked beside Vivian down the hallway, every heartbeat felt too loud. My palms were icy. My breathing uneven. I wasn't afraid of losing the house anymore. I was afraid of seeing the people I grew up with and realizing they'd never been the people I thought they were. When we entered, my parents and Celeste were already seated at the plaintiff's table. Malcolm squared his shoulders as if gearing up for battle. Rosalind wouldn't look at me. Celeste stared with entitlement burning behind her eyes, as though I was the one who had wronged her. Vivian lightly touched my arm. Stay centered. We're not arguing emotions. We're proving facts. Judge Evelyn Carter entered with the kind of authority that made the whole room sit up straighter. Let's proceed, she said. Bernard Langford, my parents' lawyer, stood first. Your Honor, this case revolves around a verbal agreement within the family regarding intended inheritance funds. An agreement Miss Eloise ignored when she purchased property using money meant for her sister, Celeste. Verbal agreement. My stomach twisted. He continued. It has long been understood that this home was meant for Celeste. Miss Eloise acted in opposition to that understanding. When he sat, Vivian rose. Calm. Controlled. Unshakable. Your Honor, the plaintiffs refer to a verbal agreement with no witnesses, no documentation, and no reference whatsoever in the legally executed will of the deceased. Meanwhile, the defendant has provided comprehensive records showing that every dollar used to purchase her home came from 6 years of documented earnings. Judge Carter nodded. Proceed. Bernard called Malcolm to the stand. My father inhaled deeply, facing the courtroom like a man taking up a mantle he believed he deserved. My mother always intended to help Celeste buy her first home, he said. It was known. Eloise was aware of this. My jaw tightened. Vivian squeezed my arm gently. Next came Rosalind. Her voice trembled just enough to seem heartfelt. We're not trying to hurt Eloise, she said softly. We only want Celeste to receive what she was promised. Promised. Another flimsy word with no proof to back it. Then Celeste took the stand. She smoothed her skirt and drew in a shaky breath that looked more rehearsed than nervous. I've been trying to save for years, she said. But I don't earn what Eloise does. So, I assume she knew the house was supposed to go to me. Bernard gently touched her shoulder as she stepped down. Of course he did. Then Vivian rose, as calm and precise as ever. Your Honor, the defense calls our first witness, Raymond Hale. Uncle Raymond entered with quiet confidence, the kind of presence that didn't need to be loud. When he spoke, his voice was steady. The inheritance was divided equally. No extra conditions. No whispered deals. I was present for the reading of the will. Bernard tried to pick his statement apart, but Raymond held firm. After him came Aunt Miriam. She moved slowly to the stand, but when she spoke, her words were iron. Malcolm pressured our parents to change the will, to favor Celeste, she said. They refused. Fairness mattered to them. Every sound in the courtroom seemed to freeze. Rosalind stared at the floor. Malcolm's jaw locked tight. Vivian thanked her and called me next. The microphone felt intimidatingly close, but the truth felt steadier than I expected. I saved for 6 years, I said. I can account for every cent. I didn't use a single dollar of inheritance. Vivian handed Judge Carter a neatly organized binder. These documents show the defendant's complete financial trail, earnings, deposits, savings transfers, covering the entire 6-year period. Judge Carter flipped through the pages with deliberate attention. Entered into record. Then Vivian spoke again. Your Honor, there is one more matter that must be considered. She paused. 2 nights prior to mediation, Celeste attempted to enter the defendant's home with a key she was not given. Celeste's head snapped toward her. I wasn't breaking in. I just wanted to look around. Vivian didn't acknowledge her outburst. A neighbor witnessed the attempt, recorded it, and filed a police report. The defendant chose not to press charges, but it demonstrates a belief by the plaintiffs that they had ownership over property that was not theirs. Bernard sputtered. Your Honor, that's unrelated. It speaks directly to the entitlement driving this case, Vivian said coolly. Judge Carter silenced the room with one raised hand. I have reviewed all materials, she said. The inheritance was equal. There is no evidence, written or otherwise, of funds earmarked specifically for Celeste. The defendant purchased her home with documented personal income. She let the words sink in. As for the attempted entry, it shows a troubling escalation. Celeste's face drained of color. I hereby dismiss the case in full. Her gavel struck once, firm and final. With prejudice. These claims may not be brought back to this court. The pressure in my chest dissolved all at once, like someone had finally lifted a crushing weight. Rosalind covered her mouth. Malcolm's face twisted. Anger, disbelief, humiliation tangled together. Celeste burst into tears. Outside the courtroom, Malcolm stormed toward us. This isn't finished, he snapped. We're still family. For the first time, I faced him without trembling. Family doesn't drag each other into court with lies, I said. Family doesn't try to steal what someone else worked for. You made your choice. Rosalind reached for me. I stepped away. I don't want conflict, she whispered. You already chose conflict, I said. And you lost. Celeste swiped at her tears. I just thought it was supposed to be mine. It never was, I said softly. You believed what you wanted to believe. She didn't reply. She just looked small, like reality was finally catching up to her. Vivian stepped beside me. We're done here. And we were. Later that evening, the sun dipped low over my neighborhood, casting the houses in warm orange. For the first time in months, walking toward my front door didn't trigger dread. I unlocked it, stepped inside, breathed. The silence felt peaceful, not lonely. Mara showed up first with takeout, beaming like she might burst. You did it, she said, hugging me tightly. Ashton arrived next with a bottle of sparkling cider. Most people don't walk into a courtroom alone against their entire family and walk out stronger. Vivian came last, poised, but with the warmest smile I'd ever seen from her. Justice doesn't fix every wound, she said gently, but it gives you space to heal. Raymond called to say he was proud. Miriam too. They reminded me that my grandparents believed in equality always. Tonight, I felt connected to that belief not just because I inherited it but because I chose it. I walked through my home, touching the smooth table, opening the windows, letting in the cool night breeze. The house didn't just feel safe again. It felt undeniably mine. Standing in the doorway, I understood something clearly. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by the people who choose you. The ones who stand beside you when everything falls apart. I didn't just win a case, I reclaimed my life. My home. My boundaries. My voice. If you've ever had to defend what's yours or push back against people rewriting your story, you're not alone. Tell me where you're listening from.